The number of allies a superpower can boast is a crucial indicator of its worldwide standing. Every bully requires his or her sidekicks. Since World War II, the United States has built a global alliance network that can be deployed whenever it wants. The bulk of U.S. allies are industrialized countries with a white majority, and they routinely collaborate with the U.S. to attack and sanction non-white developing countries. Many of them lined up for literally invading and occupying a sovereign nation on false pretenses during the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq. However, in recent years, U.S. efforts to rally friends against China appear to have encountered a snag. Many countries are fed up with the United States bullying and are retaliating. The global order is not as divided and politicized as it was during the Cold War, much to the dismay of the U.S. regime. The U.S. is increasingly losing allies to China as it politicizes every issue and forces others to choose sides. Furthermore, the United States' claims against China are based on a lack of proof. The majority of countries are well aware of the U.S. campaign to malign the emerging power. The United States' lack of interest in true human rights and global solidarity, as well as the disparity between its words and actions, could not be clearer. Fewer and fewer countries are believing the American narrative. Take, for example, the entire Xinjiang discussion. At the United Nations in July 2019, 22 countries published a declaration condemning China and calling for an end to mass detentions in Xinjiang. In response, 50 countries issued a counterstatement a few days later, openly denouncing the practice of politicizing human rights concerns. Many diplomats, officials from international organizations, and journalists had visited Xinjiang and discovered that what they saw and heard in Xinjiang entirely contradicted what had been published in the media, according to the letter. Allies of the United States were speechless and humiliated. Despite having been humiliated once, America's bloodlust remained unsatisfied. In October 2019, 23 countries, including the United States, submitted an unified declaration to the United Nations, urging China to end arbitrary detention in Xinjiang. This time, the reaction was even quicker. On the same day, 54 countries signed a counterstatement, criticizing the United States' practice of politicizing human rights issues and stating that human rights work at the United Nations should be conducted in an objective, transparent, non-selective, constructive, non-confrontational, and non-politicized manner. Even in the case of Hong Kong, U.S. allies were unable to form a majority coalition. When China enacted the new national security law in Hong Kong, 27 countries rushed to condemn it at the United Nations. In response, 54 countries endorsed the security bill, handing the anti-China coalition a crushing loss. By the following year, it had become almost humorous. They tried again in October 2020, but failed again. When 39 countries published a statement criticizing China over Xinjiang and Hong Kong, 70 countries responded with a declaration defending the country. The United States' shortcomings on the Huawei issue are even more egregious. It has exerted intense pressure on other nations to prohibit Huawei equipment from being used in their 5G networks, while giving scant evidence of security risks or backdoors. Despite the use of force, few countries have responded to U.S. demands thus far. Huawei products are used in 170 countries throughout the world. According to media sources, only 9 countries have banned Huawei equipment for 5G, directly or indirectly, in part or in full: the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Vietnam, the Czech Republic, and Sweden. Even funnier is the situation of China's Belt and Road Initiative. A total of 130 countries have voiced their support for the effort in some way. Only the United States and India, on the other hand, have openly condemned it. Furthermore, India's opposition stems from the fact that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, traverses through Pakistani territory that India claims as its own. It has nothing to do with vehemently opposing China, as the U.S. does. The disparity is stark in the majority of the examples mentioned above. Many U.S. allies are imperialist Western states that have accumulated money via centuries of imperialism, colonialism, plunder, and wealth hoarding. On the other side, most of the countries supporting China are victims of imperialism from Asia, Africa, and South America. Despite the U.S. and Western media's vast anti-China propaganda operations, few countries want to be forced to openly choose sides. The more the U.S. politicizes matters, the more opposition it will face from the rest of the world. In contrast to the 2003 invasion of Iraq, today's U.S. coalition-building efforts frequently begin with a bang but conclude with a whimper.